Stocker, formerly known as BRIA, is an experimental electronic pop artist based out of Brisbane who's just released her first single under her new name.
I don't know. I took a calculated risk, but I'm not good at math. There are a lot of other BRIAs. There are a lot of other BRIAs out there.
Alongside her is her producer, James, also known as Tejavu.
My dad always jokes like he spent his whole life working for it, and then I just got a little bit of an ear for it. So he kind of just created me, and I have the ear that he worked for.
You're his legacy.
So I'm kind of like, yeah, sick.
In this week's episode, we talked about social media pressure as an influencer.
And even then it felt like disingenuous. And now even more so because like everyone knows the formula. Sit in your car, play the song, showing my friends the song.
Her new single, Rodeo.
Half Tokyo Drift, half I'm a cowboy in a saloon. Like, you know, like a whiskey slid across the bar and I like grabbed it and like pulled a pistol out.
And creative collaboration.
And the best collaborations happen when you're in a room with people and you don't have a vision, you don't know what it looks like yet, but you all can kind of see that light.
This episode is great for producers, emerging influencers, and upcoming musicians. Okay, ready? Ready?
Yep.
Ready?
Let's
Ready?
go.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Froe Show. My name is Frank Mankin. I'm joined, as always, by my beautiful co-host, Joe Murray.
Hello, Frank.
And we are joined by two beautiful guests. We are joined by Stocker, formerly known as BRIA. And we are joined by James, also known as Tejavu.
Yes.
I almost nailed that.
You nailed it.
I almost nailed that.
Nah, I think that was a nail.
Very fresh.
I'm going to give it a good, like, A-.
Are you in a toolbox? Because you nailed it.
Thank you. I'm actually a tradie. No. That would be sick, though.
I believed it.
I was like, yo, I'm a painter. Anyway. I can immediately tell that this is going to go so off the rails. But
That's what we're
Stocker
here for.
and James are you guys technically a duo?
No.
You are
I'm
a
just
single with a producer.
I'm just the kind of the main producer.
Yeah, he's
Right.
definitely like we're a little bit conjoined, but
Okay.
not totally. You know,
Not
what I mean?
like
Yeah.
officially. There's
not
no official
married. We're
partnership.
poly.
Yeah, and there's no contracts, none of that.
No, none of that.
No, I was saying today, I think to Joe, I was like, I think it's like a Billie Eilish Phineas thing where they like have their own things
Yeah.
going, but they come together a lot.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly
That's
it.
a good way to
exactly
look at it.
Yeah.
Except we're not siblings. Or
No.
maybe in a past life or something.
Maybe in a
Yeah,
past
I
life.
feel that.
Yeah.
I feel it.
But we were trying to figure this out before what genre it is, and it falls under pop, but it's like your latest single is very like, latest single Rodeo came out like 3-4 days ago,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But what did you say it was? Like science pop? What was it?
I think I
Science
said
pop.
electronic pop.
That's the word I was looking
Yeah.
for.
Very science fiction though. Like it would be played at the end of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
I was picturing it as like in the soundtrack of Sex Education, like that kind of.
Cool.
vibe.
Yeah,
That's where I
Let's
was
get that
seeing
sync payment.
Let's
Let's go, baby.
Netflix. gimme.
it. But do you want to bio a little bit? Tell a little bit about yourself as a musician.
Yeah, well, I make pop music, but I'm very much so on that new wave of like future pop, like hyper pop, where we are just blending genres. You know what I mean? Particularly Rodeo is sort of on that wave of like
More so than anything before as well.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we're thinking about cross genre a lot more now and like taking it a bit more left, incorporating like, let's bring the guitar back into it with like electronic beats and like just not really feeling very limited to like just being super poppy, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I want to play with everything and
Yeah.
really inspired by like, for this one, the story behind Rodeo is I was driving through an intersection. It was 2 days into me trying to write for the supergroup, and I've got a few demos of what I wanted, but I wasn't hitting. It wasn't what I wanted. So I'm driving home and I'm at an intersection and I see, as I'm starting up, I realize that the car across from mine is my ex's. And so as I'm trying to drive out, I sort of stall the car and she's like turning right and I was like, she can see me. And I was like, oh, this is the most embarrassing thing ever. But, you know, it got a great song out of it. But at the time I was listening to Springsteen, like that like good sort of like Americana rock. And it felt very like Western, standoff,
showdown.
like showdown sort of vibes, because there's like, dancing in the so yeah, that was kind of the inspiration behind it. But I also wanted to incorporate like elements of like new metal, like being a female artist. I think it's really cool that like a lot
You
of
have to do
women.
your first scream.
Yeah, my first like screamo. But yeah, I think it's really cool that a lot of women are like reappropriating new metal after like, you know, I guess the connotations it had in like the early 2000s. And that's kind of what I want to do is like sample but be smart with our sampling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Make it mean something. Like, grab everything.
Pinch it and pinch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And do you want to talk a little bit about what you mentioned before? It's called Underground. Is that what it's called?
Unearthed.
Unearthed.
Triple J Unearthed. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is that? Because there's a lot going on there.
Oh, yes. So the DIY supergroup competition, it's been running for a couple of years now. Yeah.
I remember I did it 2 years ago.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't know that.
To no real response, but...
That's all right. You're here. Look
here
where you
now,
are
yeah.
now. Yeah, Triple J.
Yeah, what the fuck? You should have seen that one coming.
You know what? Sometimes you just need like a real artist, like a woman,
It's
to help
true.
you.
It's true.
But they do a competition where they basically get a bunch of artists to drop in some samples into a big pack, and then you, as an independent artist in Australia, get to take these samples, make a song out of it, and you know, best man wins.
Right.
Yeah, and it's really cool. Like, I guess for how we went about it, like, I like to do a lot of sound design, and we really repurposed the samples and didn't just really use them for what they were. Like, turned the bass guitar into a bass synth and trushed it and distorted it, and turned the vocals into a pad, like Holly Hobberstone's vocals into a pad, and just repurposing it. So then you can, if you listen to the song, it's like, other than like that rapper's ad libs and like one beat, it's all kind
Maybe
of like
no money ad-libs.
you'd have to pick out like where are the samples, and I could be like, well, actually, this is one of the samples, this is as well.
Well, that's why I like working with James, particularly when we were going through the samples. Like, if I have a crazy idea, he's not shutting it down. He's not like you don't have a producer mindset that's very like theory based of like, oh no, you can't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, definitely not. I think that's just, anytime you, like, I feel like in the creative process, like, when I'm producing for people, someone will come say an idea, and like your initial egoic response will be like, I don't think that's going to work, but you have to try it anyway. And then 50% of the time you either just feed your ego and go, yeah, it didn't work, or it works and it's where it takes you, where the song needs to go. So there's no point in being closed-minded when it comes to that kind of stuff.
There's no ego in our studio.
No, not
although
really.
you will say, oh, let's do this, and I'm like, I'll still
No,
let you
I
try
feel
it
like
though.
when you're making music, there's always a little bit of ego going on, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're all narcissists here.
Do you have to
Yeah.
stick with a specific genre with that when you pull in those samples?
No. They
There's
let you
no-
do whatever.
Yeah, they kind of just, I think they want you to kind of go a bit wild with it, like, yeah.
That's why we got to play around, particularly with like extended vocal technique, like having those like screamo vocals and stuff in there. Like,
Yeah.
so much fun to play with.
Do you want to talk about the turnaround and how...
Oh yeah, we did it. Well, because I'd wasted the first 2 days with like these demos that I didn't like, and the universe only let me run into my ex on the second. Thank you. Yeah, it was Wednesday, and we didn't get into the studio until like 3 p.m. Because
we couldn't have the weekend because I was going on tour with Wigs, so I was going down to Sydny, so I couldn't do the weekend.
And
So we literally had like...
until Thursday night, because I drove to
Yeah.
Byron 6 p.m. Thursday, and James was flying up like 5 a.m.
Friday morning.
Friday morning.
Yeah.
So very quick. It was like 27 hours.
Yeah.
Bing
Which
bong.
was, I think we should do that more, because I feel like it was really nice just being very like, we have to do this now, and just like going a little bit insane, but like getting to a point where it's like finished so quickly and you don't have any real chance to like second guess what's going on or be really picky with it. Like the imperfections you just kind of deal with, because it's like, oh, that's the deadline, like that's
Absolutely.
it. So yeah.
I'm too much of a perfectionist.
But this was your first single as Stoker.
Yeah.
Do you want to
first
talk a
single
little bit
Stoker.
about that rebrand?
Ooh, yeah. So I was BRIA, which is my real birth name. But there's so many other BRIAs out there. That was, I don't know. I took a calculated risk, but I'm not good at math. There are a lot of other BRIAs. There are a lot of other BRIAs out there. So I was kind of like, you know, I'm going to have to change it because it's difficult to search. When you look me up comes
Yeah.
Brian Eno, which like slay, but
Slay.
not me.
Music for airport, slay.
But yeah, so I was like, I'm going to have to change. So I went, did some soul searching. At the start of the in about December.
Yeah, we had a break. We had because me and BRIA I started doing production, and BRIA was the first person I started working with as a producer.
Besties.
Back in like COVID,
2020,
yeah,
right
uni
after
time.
COVID.
And yeah, we kind of just like we have kind of bursts of kind of creative things, and then we go off and do our own things and live our own lives. And I feel like this was like quite a big break, but I think it was necessary because when we came back, there was like a real understanding of like what the next phase is.
Yeah.
For our relationship creatively.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So I was sort of like, I'd done the first 2 singles, and I really burnt myself out doing it all myself. Well, I mean, obviously the second one was with like Moss and his label, so it made it a bit easier. But the first one, having to release something with like I had to learn everything from within like 6 weeks. We just sort of decided we were doing it.
You did really well. You picked up like now you can say you know the
exactly
the rollout, like how to roll
how
a
to
song
do
out.
it.
Yeah.
And it's good doing my own like marketing and PR, but boy, is it exhausting. So I was
Tell us about it.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, like I've done that. I can just buy a little bit of time to chill out, find myself. And one of my, I guess, mentors sort of sat me down around like November and was like, look, you're doing great, but I think you need to really know who you are. So I called James. I was like, I'm taking a month off. I was just going to take off December. And then December turned into 3 months.
Yeah, till Feb.
But January, I think it was like very end of December, January, I sort of came to me. I was like, I want to go by my mother's maiden name, Stocker. And I told a friend of mine, I told James, and everyone's first reaction was, oh, yeah.
But it grew on me quite quick, to be honest.
Yeah. And I let it rest for a few
visualize it.
months.
When I heard it, I was like, but then when I visualized it, I was like, okay,
you see
cool.
it on a banner and you're like,
yeah. And like, it made sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any extra significance to that name except that it was just your mother's maiden name? Like to you?
I think it's like sort of forces me to get in touch with like the feminine side of like myself and my family. My mum's side's like they were musical as well, as was my dad's side, but like my uncle is like a musician himself. And I don't know, it felt right, and I liked how masculine it was, and you know, pairing it with just like how, I don't know, like feminine I am, like and like the visuals and the sound, like it just felt, I don't know, sometimes
right.
things just click.
What did we say in the car? BRIA was bestie and Stocker
BRIA was
slay.
bestie, but Stocker is slay.
So it's in the right.
For as long as slay lasts.
Yeah, another 6 months or.
Well, I managed to keep.
I reckon it will go on
kept
for a
bestie
while.
going on for like a year.
You're single-handedly
I
keeping
reckon
it alive.
Slay's implemented itself into culture a little bit deeper than Bestie did.
Well, I got slay on Triple J, so
Yep.
sliv, slav, slav.
Goddamn did. Sliving.
Sliving.
Speaking about your family, how do you feel like your upbringing has affected your musical career? Like, how has that played a part?
You
You want
go
it?
first.
Well, my dad's a jazz sax player and used to run a jazz club in Hong Kong in the 90s.
Whoa, okay.
So I just kind
Flex.
of always which is a whole nother thing. But yeah, so I just grew up with seeing dad play music. So I kind of had no other, in my mind, there was no other real path other than like being a professional video game like person. But like, which is another story. But
Not Fortnite.
but like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it was just like kind of clear to me that that's what I wanted to do. And I have very supportive parents when it came to like pursuing music and stuff. And yeah, I think it was kind of a no-brainer. And my dad always jokes like he spent his whole life working for it, like studying it, and then I just got a little bit of an ear for it. So he kind of just created me, and I have the ear that he worked for.
You're his legacy.
So I'm kind of like, yeah, sick.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really grow up that musical. Like, I did Kids on Keyboards, you know. Such a throwback.
What's that?
Kids on Keyboards is where, like, on a Wednesday before school, they have, I don't know, this music teacher comes in at like 7 a.m. and like a bunch of kids go in and learn how to play chopsticks.
Cool.
So, slay.
How specific the chopsticks were.
Yeah.
Well, I guess like my uncle is a musician and my
He's a sax player
grandfather
too,
was as
isn't
well.
he?
He's a saxophone player, yeah.
Interesting.
He slivs.
He slaxes.
He slaxes.
Slaxophone.
Slaxophone. We get a slack solo.
That's good.
Yeah, but then, I don't know, I sort of just fell into music. I always wanted to be, like, I don't know, like doing something creative to some capacity. I was in, like, theatre and absolutely loved that. And then I decided when I was, like, 10, I wanted to be on Australia's Got Talent, as the kids do. But yeah, went through the whole, like, choir camp and, like, theatre camp and, like, you know, picking up instruments. But my mother as well, like she always did event management. She used to organise like, I mean, not so slay, but she would organise like the fashions on the field for the races in our hometown.
Right.
And like, she's very much so a little like girl boss. So I think that rubbed off on me like marketing wise, and how I like approach like my brand and my sound and, you know.
Yeah, everything.
Everything.
Yeah, your marketing is so interesting though.
you.
Because you kind of... Was it intentional to have a fairly popular TikTok, or was that kind of just like a kind of memeing on TikTok?
That just
and then
happened.
you're like, oh,
You were
Yeah.
kind of early to TikTok, right?
I was very early to TikTok. Because I went to a performing arts school to do like music and theatre and film. And by the end of it, I was like, I never want to touch music again. I was so over it. And so the only thing I really had to like keep me going creatively was like TikTok had just happened, like end of 2018. So I'd posted a few videos and I was kind of doing like the influencer thing on Instagram, but like not really. Like I had only 1,000 followers, but I just really liked posting like fashion stuff. I was really into fashion. But my way to promote, I realized that when I would have a really funny story, I was getting more likes. And it wasn't like intentional. I didn't know it was marketing. But so I would make things on TikTok because it was an easier interface to like just use and edit on the fly. And then if I put it on my story and then I was like, new post up, I was getting more likes on my photos.
Oh.
So it wasn't meant for TikTok at all. But then like one of those ones that I made for Instagram just blew up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So that night I made like 5 more and all of those started getting numbers because
Right,
I was
so
like, I can't let this go.
So you started using TikTok as a video editor and not
Yeah.
as an actual social
Yeah.
media player.
Yeah, that's
Oh, true.
exactly it.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, just to put on my stories. And also because like there was like a guy I liked and I was like, oh, he'll like see them, you know what I mean? So yeah, it just sort of like went off and then that night I made like a few more and I just sort of started following the trends and I noticed people were really into like nostalgia. So I was just sort of like making like videos of me of like characters that I look like what's her name from like Hotel Transylvania, like I dressed up as her. I dressed up as like the guys from Yo Gabba Gabba, and then just sort of like rode the wave a little bit until I got here.
And I just kept doing it for
Yeah.
a while.
What's your opinion on the whole like thing that's kind of come out with how
Halsey?
Halsey
Yeah.
and Charlie and stuff?
I think it's kind of like a catch-22 where people don't like to be marketed to anymore, and so I understand the need to like try and do this like anti-marketing, but
You're talking specifically about like I made this song in a day and here's the
like the whole,
keyboard.
and also like labels and like, you know,
Yeah.
it's becoming a thing where like people are really focusing on the outcome of TikToks to base their whole
Oh yeah, how
creative
Halsey
process.
said
Yeah.
this morning, like I want to release the music
Yeah,
video, but the
yeah.
label won't. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Did you
which I
catch
think
that?
is kind
No,
of
I don't think so.
I think it's kind of like, I don't know, it feels like it's getting a little bit, I feel like the whole content thing is getting a little bit much.
Yeah,
And it's kind of taking away from art.
the Halsey thing is they want to release a music video and their new single, but the label doesn't want to release the music video or the single until there's a viral TikTok that they have. So
Right.
they're barring them from posting and uploading.
From
And she
releasing
sold, like,
releasing the
hundreds
song
of
until
millions of albums,
168
Yeah.
million
Yeah,
albums,
like,
and
she
they
doesn't-
have the final master, so they can't just Halsey can't just drop it. you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
right.
sorry, quick little.
No,
no,
I
that's
think so.
exactly it.
Yeah, and I think it kind of just makes me think more about like we're getting to a point where we are kind of maybe losing a bit of appreciation for like good art and like good quality art, because people are getting told to pump stuff out and they feel like they can't slow down and focus on their art as much because they need to keep it out, keep the momentum up.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we should actually be very conscious of, because it's going to dilute it all down, and it's going to, I don't know, art's so important for just evolution in general. So, yeah.
We see it everywhere. Like, it's the same thing with movies. Like, you get the same thing with the Marvel movies, where they're like pumping out a movie every 3 months. Yeah. It's like, that can't be sustainable, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like I had an idea today. I was like, maybe you could create an alternative platform which is like for creatives and artists, and it has a limitation on posting, so you don't have to meet a quota. Like, you don't have to just keep feeding the algorithm. Your algorithm can be fed by just doing a post once a week, and you can make that really good quality. You don't have to keep like doing it. But I don't know.
You don't have to try and keep up with the other content creators.
Yeah, because it's like it's people out there that are naturally better at it than other people, and people out there just don't want to do it as well, and it's kind of like kind of a really weird playing field. But
yeah, you'd understand this as well, like doing the 365 vlogs. And like as well, we've seen it happen with the YouTubers where there's no limitations on like what is required of them. Like, you work through the holidays, you work through Christmas, you work every single day of the year, and you burn yourself out. And then when you have a break, you're either forgotten about or people are mad at you. And that's happening to musicians like more and more now.
Yeah, and it doesn't really give you any time to like
to produce quality. It's all just
to
quantity.
Produce quality, like get yourself really inside the process, because you're just thinking about, I need to get this out now. Like, yeah.
And sometimes that's good, but like a lot of the time, like you said, it does dilute.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a balance, and I feel like where the world's at right now, there's a bit of an imbalance with that.
Yeah.
If people were
there's
coming
a difference
out
between it being your choice to pump out that much content, and like you have to pump out.
Yeah,
that much
exactly.
content.
Yeah.
Definitely found that with the start of TikTok, like, 'cause I didn't ask to be there. But then once it happened, it was like, I don't want to lose this. And it's just these cycles since of like creating content and being really good at it for like a month, and then like dropping off, and then that. And particularly early days when I was sort of starting on music with James and talking to people in the industry, they're like, well, you've got this big following, like, why aren't you promoting the music? Why aren't you posting your demos? Why aren't you? And even then it felt like disingenuous. And now even more so, because like everyone knows the formula: sit in your car, play the song, showing my friends the song, writing the song, give me a suggestion for a song. Like, everyone knows the formula. But the hard part is that even right now, it still works, and it stops working day after day. But a year ago I was like, nah, it's gonna die off soon. And now I'm here a year later, I'm like, should I have just sold out and done it then? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's a level of integrity that you uphold as well, where you're like, okay, that's where I draw the line. Like, that's something that I don't want to partake in, because it makes me feel worse about my art.
Yeah.
So that's clearly a decision that you've made.
Yeah, well, until recently. You can look at my TikTok now, guys. I'm girl busting the music the whole way.
You wanted to ask about that, didn't you? About the TikTok?
I wanted to ask, why don't you post your other stuff on TikTok? Like, why don't you promote your music on your TikTok? Because we had a very brief look through it before today. Yeah.
Very brief. We spent like 15 minutes going through your TikTok.
Slip. Everybody should be spending 15 minutes going through my TikTok.
No one else. Maybe Madison Beasley's.
Maybe bestie. I don't know. I've always found them to be two separate parts of my career. I consider myself to have like a lot of jobs. My like influencer career is where I have my biggest platform, but it's where I'm my most personal, which is like a weird juxtaposition to have, where I feel like I bear all on my TikTok, but when it comes over to Instagram, and I had this issue when I started out too, I was starting to repost stuff onto my Instagram. I was losing a lot of followers. And I was like, they're just completely different markets. They're like they're there for different reasons. Like, Instagram's there for me as the image and what people want to project onto me. You know, like, pretty photos, you know,
and your
pretty
music,
woman,
I think music's
and the music
more,
now, yeah. But then on the TikTok, it's like people are there because I'm just being me, which is relatable to a lot of people, but it's not necessarily marketable. You know, in the industry, you want to look cool and you want to be cool and you want to like Instagram's very like, I don't know, a little more formal.
Do you see any possibility of all those different things converging at some point in the future, like maybe through the rebrand or?
I think probably the rebrand, funny enough, I think Stocker is even more professional and sort of removed from me, which I think was kind of a little bit the idea. I found like being an influencer and having like my name attached to everything, I was getting, I don't know, when you first meet me and whatever, and it's like, oh, BRIA, bestie, yay, pink, pink, pink. I think I realized very quickly, like when, I've told this story on my TikTok before, like I was in a session and a producer, I was like, oh, I have that guitar. This producer looked at me and was like, oh, you own a guitar? And I sort of realized like this like bimbo-y like sort of facade that I'd been putting on, people genuinely thought was me, and it was attached to my name, and that's how I was in public, because that was just how I have fun. But I was like, I really need to start separating those so I can remember like who I am again, underneath that.
Yeah. Did you kind of lose yourself in that then?
Yeah, like very, very Paris Hilton vibes. Like when you hear her talk about it, where it's like she started off doing the show, The Simple Life, where the idea was they were playing characters, but everyone just assumed that was her, and she had to play this character all the time. And before you know it, all you do is talk in that voice, and all you do is use those like slang words, and that's who you become. And I definitely don't want to get to where she is at her age, and like that's just been your whole life. Like I want people to see me for me a little bit more, but then also be able to
separate the art from the artist.
No, not in that way. Oh, not in that way. But to be able to as well, and just like with content creation, like be able to switch off from my work.
Yeah, because it's dangerous if you don't, because then that parasocial relationship gets even more intense. Yeah. Like for me, I know it's really hard for me because all my content is just me. And I've been recognized 4 times now. Every single time, it's this incredibly strange interaction where I can tell that they know me really well.
Yes.
And they assume that goes both ways. And it's not conscious. Like when you watch someone and you experience their life every single day, like you're just like, yeah, like I know that person now.
Yeah.
Such a weird experience to be like, complete stranger is talking to me like my best friend talks to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I found that like early on with TikTok, when it was like fully in its heyday, like I would get recognized sometimes, and everyone was really, really lovely, like really, really lovely. And I was so excited to be meeting people, and it's definitely something you dream of as well, like particularly when you like want to be a musician or something. You're like, oh, I can't wait till I'm recognized for the first time. But I realized how awkward I am, and I'd felt like I'd disappointed them when they met me. Like because particularly at the start, before I sort of assimilated my personality. That's probably what kicked it off, actually, because I was so like, la la la, all up here, and then people would meet me and I'd be down here, and I felt like I'd disappointed them. So it just sort of became who I was eventually, to just be like this all the time, so that I'm what people expect.
Yeah. And what's that transition been like for you?
Well, kind of easier because I took the break.
Yeah.
Like I just sort of dropped off. I didn't post on social media for a couple of months, like a little bit sporadically here and there, but mostly just off, and then sort of like been able to rebuild from there. I'm still like working out how to, I guess, like be like this with people and stuff, but I'm hoping that Stocker sort of kicks off a more authentic version of me and a more characterized version of me that we can understand as separate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you hope that people can look at that and be like, okay, that's an artist.
That's their artist. Yeah, that's not the influencer BRIA. That's like her artist project. Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's really hard now though with social media, because everyone experiences your life with you. Like it's no longer this separation between like, okay, that's their stage persona and that's their off-stage persona. Like I know that, and I think that really goes back to like 70s rock and roll, whereas like those rock and roll stars were like this crazy persona on stage, and then they felt obligated to be that off stage as well.
And
that's
destructive
spread into the social media age, and we just can't get rid of it.
And we're in the experimental stage as well. Like no one really knows what the hell's going on when it comes to this stuff. Like it's only really become a massive big thing in the past 8 years. Like the sheer intensity of it now. But what you were saying, interesting about like expectation and how people, when you recognize, like for example, I've met some like musicians through just my career that like I look up to, and you meet them and you're like, they're just chilling, like, and it's like, so I think a lot of people, due to social media, have this real expectation on like when they meet someone, it's going to be exactly the same as what they see on the screen, and it's just like, it can create and then they'll get outraged. Like, for example, like I was listening to the Charlie XCX podcast, and they're talking about like, you know, when you go on tour and you're touring and it's like that green room's your home and you have strict green room things, like your fans can't come in. It's like, well, that's your home for the night. And people go, oh, why are you so tired? It's like, because I've just got, like, people don't actually register all the other stuff. Like you're actually a person that goes through shit, and you're tired, and you could be tired or run down, or, you know, and it's like, I think, I don't really know how we can kind of combat against that, especially that younger people are getting on TikTok now as well. So they're going to have this programming that they expect that as well. So it's going to be kind of a weird thing to see kind of resolve how it pans out.
I think, though, what I do enjoy about social media, and I guess like I work in social media, so I do have a soft spot for it. I enjoy that we are having that sort of rubber band and counterculture to what is the big like influencer sort of side of social media. Like we're seeing more authenticity, and even though it's feigned authenticity at the moment, the parasocial relationship is like a double-edged sword, because people are like, you know, being like, oh, I'm more connected to you, I know who you are, yada yada, and you feel like you have to be this like grandiose version of yourself. But because more people are breaking the mold and being authentic with it, we are peering through the loophole and seeing that, you know, for like celebrities are real people.
You can pick out who's kind of doing it a bit too much.
Doja Cat is really good at it.
Yeah, well, that's a great example. And she's just naturally really good at being authentic on there. And you can tell when someone's not, because it's almost like they're miming something else. And it's like, I don't know, like,
But I think it goes both ways too, though, where I genuinely enjoyed doing the like pink bestie over the top like bimbo thing for a while, and I still do. And I think that a lot of people as well also projected that was me in a negative way as well, and not realize that it was a caricature and that it was me doing. Yeah, I was doing like I was doing it to. It started off ironic, like it started off. You know, being honest, like with a bit of judgment behind it, with a bit of like, oh yeah, like fuck social media, like fuck like the people who are like, you know, all influencer and like buy my product and yada yada. Because I was like, I have this following, like it'd be funny to do that. But then I sort of started growing an appreciation for it, because I think I also did it a bit in an exercise to. I'd always grown up a bit judgy, a little bit like music wanker, like I don't listen to pop, like I don't like Pink, like I'm not like the other girls. And I realized how cynical I was, and how much of equally like a bully I was being to people who were interested in mainstream things. So I was like, I'm just going to try and live in this world and live in this blissful ignorance. And it was nice, and it was fun, and it was enjoyable. And then, you know, in turn, it's kind of a bit of my karma. Like I started getting treated or looked at the way that I used to look at people who did that.
Right.
So it was like cool to be on the other side of it, but
it's very meta.
Very meta, very rooted in misogyny, very like not letting women just enjoy what they want to do. And I'm happy for the bimbo movement, because I think it's meant that, you know, the whole like women support women has allowed us to sort of get past like, oh, we don't like boy bands, we don't like, you know, like Hydro flasks, we don't, you know, the things that women find trendy and cool, we're less and less making fun of with this supportive movement. Obviously choice feminism has their downsides, and it's like, you know, rooted in a bit of privilege, but I think it's important that we're breaking that mold, and I think it's important to stop judging people for doing things that they find fun and enjoyable when it's literally not affecting you at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally not affecting you.
Life.
Yeah. Let people live their life.
Yeah.
Let me say slay, let me say bestie, let me like Pink, let me get giggly,
Facts.
and then also let me be like this. People are multifaceted, and it's not just for me, it's for like anyone like I think teenage girls get it really, really hard on socials, really hard.
Well, because it's so easy to see people as a one-dimensional being, you know? Like, you can easily look at someone and be like, all right, that's them. Picture painted in your mind, like, that's them on social media, that's them in person, that's every part of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you start, especially if you don't like them, you start picking away at pieces of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's how things like the Hydro Flask thing started, and like liking Pink. It's like, I don't like that person, and they do that thing, so that's all women, or that's all non-binary people.
Yeah, or that's the D'Amelios.
Exactly.
That's all the little TikTok stars. And it's like, I don't know, man. They're just kids who liked dancing, and then they got wrapped up and they got managers and they got made to do all this stuff.
If I got that famous at 15, I would also buy a stupidly big mansion and have my own reality TV show
It all
and
comes
buy
from
my friends
insecurity
everything.
as well. It all just comes from like envy and insecurity.
Yeah.
Anytime anyone knocks anyone down, it's like, that's
and that's
Absolutely.
the thing too. Like, if you put yourself in those shoes, like, I'm 16 and I have $11 million at my disposal. It's like, absolutely, I would do all that stupid stuff. That's what you do when you have disposable income.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about it like with Millie Bobby Brown as well. When this is my trend prediction. It's on camera now. She's coming back within the next 2 months. I promise you, everyone's going to stan her. I promise you. I'm a psychic. No, I'm not. I'm just a trend predictor. But Millie Bobby Brown.
I absolutely agree with you. I was saying this exact same
You
thing
were?
the other day.
I feel it.
After the Stranger Things premiere that she went to, and all that stuff came out, where it's like, she looks like a young Jennifer Lopez. And I was like, she's gonna come back.
No, I've been saying this for months now. It's because where Hollywood has a white man of the month, like a white boy of the month, they just pick a woman and go, you know what, we hate you.
They have a freshly 18 woman of the month.
Oh, not even just that. Like, it's like the Katy Perry's or like the like Britney Spears
Taylor
vibes.
Swift.
They just decide to dislike someone. And
Jennifer Lawrence was the one.
Jennifer
for a
Lawrence,
very long
actually,
time.
she did cover
right,
this.
because it's women who they get an upswing in popularity, and then people go like, oh, but they like this, or like, because Jennifer Lawrence, she was like I like pizza and I like hanging out, which is a typical man thing. It's like the ideal male fantasy, like, oh, she's one of the guys, and then she still got given shit for it. We can't win. Let me live.
Sliv.
Let me slip.
let me swim. Let me swim.
Yeah, and so I think with like Millie Bobby Brown, she was a child being annoying in interviews. You're telling me that if you as a child were being interviewed like by like big Hollywood reporters, by Jimmy Kimmel, you wouldn't get annoying? I would be so annoying. I would have got the shit bullied out of me in Hollywood, you know? But she was just existing, and everyone was like, wouldn't it be funny?
Yeah, all these like mature people like being like, what the fuck? Why is this kid like
Literally.
being annoying? It's like, they're a kid. Like
Obviously.
they haven't even like, they don't
Let's
even know
bully
what's
her
going
up.
on.
When she was like
Yeah.
14, I met her by accident.
By accident.
By accident. I've never told this story on the
Wow,
podcast.
okay, go
Wow.
ahead.
It's a good story.
So I was at a Comic-Con. I was at Supernova, and it was the year that Stan Lee was there, so I was waiting in line to meet Stan Lee. I'll do the super abridged version so that we can go by it quickly. But I was waiting in line for ages, and a friend of mine that I was doing a musical with at the time, her name was Kate, and she was also she's the same age as Millie Bobby Brown. So
Slay.
she'd messaged me before and was like, I'm going to be at the con. If you're around and I see you, we'll catch up for a bit because I hadn't seen her in a little bit. Anyway, we were midway through, like, we'd just taken a break rehearsing this show, like a couple week break, and we were all learning stuff over the break. And I run into her, and I start having this conversation with her. I'm like, oh, how's the show going? How's you going with learning lines and stuff? She's like, oh, yeah, it's going great. Like, kind of seems a bit off. And I was like, yeah, cool. Chatting with her a bit, and had this whole, like, 10-minute conversation with her. And she's like, okay, I got to go. Like, I'll, catch you later. And I was like, yeah, see you later. And then I'm with my dad, and my dad turns to me and goes, that was a really casual conversation. And I was like, yeah, like, she's in the show with me. He goes, oh. No, that was Millie Bobby Brown.
Wait, so you thought it was your friend?
I fully thought that she was my friend
Oh my god!
because they look so similar.
Wow.
And
You
so
just
I
had
went,
this-
I went and I bought an autograph ticket from her after I saw Stan Lee and stuff. This was right at the end of the day. There was no one there. I went up to her booth and I was like, I am so sorry. I fully thought you were my friend Kate. Like, we're doing this. I explained the
How are
whole
you going
thing to
learning
her.
lines for Stranger Things?
yeah. And she's like, yeah.
Because this was like right between seasons 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So she was like,
Oh my god.
so yeah, I had this like total conversation with her family. Thought it was hilarious.
That's so funny.
But yeah, I like had this moment. I was like, it must have been nice for her to just like be a person for a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, that was my little
That's a
Millie
good
Bobby
story.
Brown story.
Well, she's coming back.
She's coming back.
She's coming back. I
And
feel it.
you'll think that she's someone else again. At a
Yeah,
different
again, she'll come
Yeah.
back and be like, "Oh my god, Jennifer Lawrence."
Maybe you think she's. People have been commenting on my TikTok, like, "Oh, I thought this was Millie Bobby Brown. Are you Millie Bobby Brown?" So
Yes.
maybe you'll run into me and be like, no, you'll run into her and you'll be like, "Oh, how's Stocker going? How's the song?
New single sick.
Why do you have a British accent, BRIA?" Actually, I do. Speak
Is
in
this a new
British accent a
character?
lot. it's the new version of my
3.
social media. Phase 3. Why is it a flat earther?
Stalker.
Oh, that's sick.
A flat
Stalker.
earther.
A
Stalker. Oh, it's like stalker.
Stalker on the track.
Like UK bruv, like stalker.
A lot of people think it means I'm like stocking shelves or like
Yeah, so
stocks.
you've gotten a lot.
Yeah, I'm getting into crypto,
You
guys.
work at
by my-
Tesco.
Yeah.
Let's go back to kind of the rebrand. This new song is the first song from Stalker.
Yes.
What was that process like actually making that? I know we talked a little bit about the samples, but I really want to talk about like what was it like writing it? What was the turnaround time like for you? And how have you kind of built this idea of what Stalker is going to be, and how have you put that into this
Good
song?
question.
Well, yeah, Stalker has been brewing in my mind since like December 29th. So I knew what I wanted her to look
Very
like.
specific day.
Since end of the year.
It was end of the year.
Right.
Slend of the Slayer. And
Year of the Sleigh.
the year of the sleigh. This year's the year of the sleigh. And so I knew what I wanted. I just needed to like get some songs together. So I started like working with James, working with another producer, Mason Rowley, incredibly talented from Archers, and we'd written a couple of songs with Tom Eggert as well. So, and I'd sort of had these
You
songs
branched
that
out a bit.
branched out a bit, and I had these songs that weren't fitting in with BRIA, and so I knew, okay, like that's sort of the vibe I want to go in, but I want to keep writing. And then I was really, really fortunate to, through a friend of mine, get a sponsorship in the new Studio 4000, which is a new studio in the Valley. Very exciting. And we got that through Co-Write, who are these absolute besties over in Sweden. They do like distribution, and they help independent artists sort of like fund themselves like through their fans and get their fans involved in the process. It's really, really incredible. But yeah, they let me have a studio for a month, which meant I had a place to record, I had a place to write, I had a place to like bring other artists in and other like producers in. So during that month, I'd sort of gone through a breakup, wrote a song that which is The Angel, which is I don't know if I should announce that, but oh well, it's sneak peek.
Which may be the next, probably the
next single, yeah. But I got
which was written before
4000, written before this one. But I'd written that, and it just immediately felt right. I was like, this is it. This is the new vibe. So I got some like press shots together with Tom Vu, who works out of here,
Fantastic
and
photographer,
Francis as well. Yeah, and we just this sort of fell into place.
Yeah, it did.
I'm such a perfectionist. I really wanted Stalker to be like, I'm like collect all these assets and then have a like plan it out for months in advance and then have like a slow burn. But then the supergroup happened, and I was like, well, if we go far with it, like if we get into the finalists or even win, I can't do it under BRIA. So we had 27 hours to make the song. At about hour 26, I was like, we're just like getting absolutely lovely Jared to master it for help
Jared
us master it.
4000.
Jared out of 4000 to master it for us. And so we're sitting in the room, and I was like, wait, I should change my name to James. I was like, wait, if we're posting this,
I
we're
guess it's
uploading it
time.
tonight, I just kind of have to.
Yeah.
So it was a good lesson in like not getting in my own way. And so I just grabbed one of the press shots from Tom, and we also had taken some iPhone photos with over at Man, Zach McMahon. He threw together a logo for us and for Rodeo, and I just uploaded it and went, all right, this is me. Hi, I'm Stalker. And I think it was easier because I knew what she looked like in my head, but it was hard. it was hard to rip off that Band-Aid. It was hard to let go of my like, no, this has to be like a 6-week rollout and I have to like, you know, my little marketing brain was like,
you had no chance.
But
you couldn't have done that. Yeah.
I know. I just sort of had to. And I'm glad I did. It's been received well.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
And I think the sound is like, as well, like musically, I think, or just all the whole sonic side of it is very much like we're on the same wave with what its standards at now.
Yeah.
And whether that's just taken us both growing as songwriters and producers and everything, just growing in the music as a creative, I think we very clearly know what's serving Stocker and what's not.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, I don't know, it's almost like you said, it falls into place. It feels a lot more flowy and like just persist at it, and it's kind of falling and flowing than
authentically us
than
too.
like BRIA, where it's like when we were doing the previous projects, like it was like, you know, we couldn't choose a single out of like 5 songs, and we just kept jumping between shit. And I just think we needed to be at a better place creatively, just a bit more experience, a bit more growth.
We were a little rushed with Speed Dial coming out, but like it was really worth it, just getting that kicks on and now like
and taking it off sick. I've
love taking it off
gone back
Speed Dial.
It's great.
They served their own
They
places
all
like
have
so
a
well.
purpose.
So much of a purpose. But we were in a really fortunate position which is really rare, where like we got to grow together and meet up so early, so that like we sort of were learning together for a couple of years. Most people can't do that. Most people, you end up in a position where it's like you're like paying for studio time, or you're like meeting up with different producers, and you don't actually get to get comfortable together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It sounds like you had a lot of creative minds on Rodeo. Was that right? Like a lot of people working on it?
It was just us two.
Just you two.
Just the two of us. I've worked with other people on other songs, but we did have in
Jared
4000. Yeah, in 4000 there's like a lot of other producers and artists around.
And we're open. I think we're like a lot more open with Stocker to collaborate more and get more people involved. Like
even with BRIA, we just didn't know where to find anyone.
Yeah. And I think also we just, as we said, we just have a better understanding of like what the sound needs to be and what it needs to feel like, and kind of, I think personally it's just a little bit more not experimental, but just more experimental, but more like more looking for those weird things,
the in between places that haven't been
within the production
yet.
Like even in Rodeo there's like that vocal loop that you did where you're literally just going and it's like that kind of shit. Like we wouldn't have been doing that when we were doing the older stuff, like thinking about those little token things that kind of
whatever
give it a world
serves
that's
the
very
song. Always what serves the song, not what serves me, not what serves James. Like I have some ideas sometimes that in theory are like really, really cool, but it's not hitting the song, or it's even executed like incredibly, but it's just like it's not. It has to be
too derivative, or it's just not serving the song.
Kill your darlings.
Yes.
Kill your
darlings.
babies.
That was obviously a super rushed production, but what was the creative process like from writing the lyrics all the way through to a final master?
Well, it definitely started with me. I'm sitting in my car, stalled in the middle of the intersection. And I was like, okay, this sucks. But because like when you stall the car, the radio still plays. The rodeo.
The rodeo still plays.
So Springsteen was there, and I was like, okay, sleeve. And it reminded me of that's that like Americana rock that you kind of get with like Lana Del Rey's Ride, or like one of my favorite songs, Dick Hard by Critter. So good.
I heard that. I have to listen to that now.
So good. Or like Alan Power, that sort of like country western. So I was like, I'd been thinking about making a song like that for a while. Yeah, you were showing
some, like we were writing prior to it before, and you were showing references and saying you wanted to do something like that. Yeah.
Hadn't hit it yet, and so I got home and just started like banging out these like lyrics. It's sort of like half Tokyo Drift, half I'm a cowboy in a saloon, like you know, like a whiskey slid across the bar, and I like grabbed it and like pulled a pistol out. But then I'm also in my car,
like also
it was,
drifting. Like Tokyo, but with a gun, like with the whiskey, like weird crossover.
Really weird crossover. So I just started like banging out some lyrics so that I had something for when we came in with James. And then we jumped into the studio together and grabbed the because I'd been working the couple of days before on some different demos, so I'd played those once to James, and I think I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the look you gave me was like, they're nice songs, but they're like not there. But both of them had the Superorganism beat in it, so we chucked that in, and then I wanted to use like Holly Humberstone vocals as sort of like a paddy thing, so we played around with it being like a chordal like poly synth, but just I don't know, it wasn't really hitting, and I was like, look, I want it to be a Western. Let's just start off by writing the song, and then we'll work with the samples more later as we go along. So James whipped out his guitar and did like the bing, ding, 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 ding. And I was like, no, it needs to, like, we need to have that sort of bassy note hitting. And we were playing some reference tracks because I wanted it to be like you want to be able to hear it having like a whip crack in the back and a oh, and like a oh, and like a what's it called, like an eagle, like over in the background. So once we hit that right with that, I then started writing the melody, and James and I like to, we like to start together, go
and
separate,
and then come back.
Yeah,
in the same room though, so there's probably some like telepathic, like kind of, you know,
past life siblings
shit going on. Like whilst we're writing it, it's kind of like we're in the same zone. In like
same energy in the air.
And then I just went off and did the production, some of the main production stuff,
some of that prod in the verse
and the chorus. Once we got the chorus,
because we played around with that, like I was like, because I'd heard a pod. No, that was Charlie XC. It was Charlie XCX and AG Cook. We were listening to the new album, and there was this one like sort of ad-libby thing, and you're like, how would they even do that?
Oh yeah.
And so they were like, oh, they've obviously just hard tuned it and then gone like, wah! And so I was like, let me have a try. And I came up with that sort of, it's like not quite a Western.
It's almost Eastern.
Yeah, not Western in the sense of like cowboys, but like as in like Western world. It wasn't like very Western tonality.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the modes.
East and Western.
Like Dorian or something.
Well, there is a Tokyo Drift.
Yeah. So then put that one in, and I was like, oh, this isn't going to be like a regular, this is going to have like a drop.
Yeah.
So then wrote the rest of the, pretty much, went through that. Then that meant we could then incorporate once we started looking at the other samples, I noticed how much like harder it was getting, and it was getting into that sort of like nu metal sort of vibes. And I was like, I want to
all the distorted guitars.
Yeah, and like the heavier, like the drum fills, and it's like getting into that more rockier sense in the drops, which is like really fun. So then, I was like, I want to get. At this point, we were like delirious. It was like
it was like 8 hours
middle of the night,
like no breaks,
no sleep, club, another club. I was exhausted, and I was like looking at James. I was like, I want to put Slay in it, and he's like, what? And I was like, I want to scream something. Well,
you originally know what happened was you had a tick.
Right.
You tick. No, okay.
So we were playing it before, and we'd written the drop and written everything, but we were just about to track the vocals properly. And
this is great, actually.
I'm sitting. I actually have a video, not of it happening, but where I was sitting on the couch, and it was there, and James is like playing through it, like playing with some stuff, and the drop builds up. And then I have like tics where they're not usually verbal, but I'll like whistle, or sometimes I'll say things. Rarely ever swear. But in this instance, it gets to the drop and I go, fuck!
but I didn't. I was going to delete. I literally misplaced my keyboard and hit record instead of delete.
And so
I recorded the tick.
Going, fuck!
And then we put it in right before the drop, and it was sick.
It was so sick. I was like, we have to do it. But then I was like, I want to win.
So you had to.
So I was like, let's make it like friendly for radio. So we changed it to Slay and Sliv. Just so
Which is
crazy. Way better. Get Slay on Triple J.
There's also you doing like a full belt scream at the end.
Oh yeah, over
the rodeo. Like when you
it's like
the chorus.
You can just hear it as it comes out of the bridge, or it's like foot on the gas, riding in my echo, or for the rodeo. You can like hear it in the background. I went crazy.
Yeah.
And then at the end it gets a little bit synth wavy, which I think has been
cool.
sort of an influence over my music in the past as well. With like,
I think as well, like doing rodeo, I feel like all those influence that we drew on the more new metal stuff, and like I feel like that's something that we'll probably hold on to now when we do some more writing. Like we'll probably be like, okay, we can like fuck around
Let's
with like
go
distorted
crazier.
guitars and shit. Like we don't have to, you know, it kind of just opened it up even more, like what we could do.
Yeah, exactly.
At-
We're in our experiment phase.
At any point in that production, did you step back and think, this is not what I had envisioned?
Yeah. Well, yes,
I
but
feel
in the
like there
best
was
way.
no- yeah,
in the best way. Yeah.
I feel like we're not. There's no vision. There's just a feeling that we're running off. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's now. It's like we're making it and we just know when it feels right, and we're not going in because a lot of sometimes you go in and you go, okay, I want something. Oh, but you did have a vision. You had the Wild
I
West.
had the Wild West, but I wasn't.
You had the themes.
Once
but not
we
the
got to
sound.
that chord, when we first did the I was like, oh, is this gonna work? Like I wasn't really sure because I was like, this is taking a turn now. It's not that like full on like Americana rock thing that I wanted, but I'm glad we like wrote it out. And Jack Antonoff talks about it as well. It's this idea when the best music comes from, and the best collaborations happen when you're in a room with people and you don't have a vision, you don't know what it looks like yet, but you all can kind of see that light up in the corner together, and you can't quite make out, it's like a sign in the distance. You can't make out what it says, you can't make out what it looks like, you don't really know the color, but you can all see it. You can all see it, like the tiny little speck at the end there, and you just sort of have to move closer to
In
it
its
together
direction.
and add things to it to make it what it is at the end.
Yeah, I
That's
love
where we are.
that process.
Yeah.
That's so much more exciting to me than like kind of
We're gonna make a this
having
song.
the whole thing kind of mapped out, which is cool in its own right. Like, but that's never been how I work. I'm like
No.
constantly searching for happy accidents, and like when I hear shit, when you're listening back on it and you hear something that's not actually in it, and you just but it's always just one thing at a time. Like it's never, yeah.
I don't want to be derivative. I want to be slay original.
Oh,
That was the worst thing I've ever
Yeah, that
No,
was-
but
cut that one
original
out.
in the sense of like, well, we're talking about it with like the Grimes podcast. Her talking about like, art is about joining a conversation with all the artists
yeah. It's
that
like
come before you.
it's like your art is just a conversation you're having with all the art that's happened prior, and it's just your little way of perceiving it
Yeah.
and filtering it through your
Well,
program.
it's so
your
much
brain.
more exciting now creating from a place of, instead of like, oh, here's this one song, let's make a song that sounds like that. Here's these references, and then here's this movie I watched the other day, and then here's this piece of art, and then here's the theme I want to talk about.
Yeah, and here's this
how do we
weird
find the
sound.
middle ground of
Yeah.
that? And that's exactly where I want to be with Stocker.
Hell yeah.
We kind of have to bring it to a close.
Oh,
now.
Do.
shivers.
Even
Yeah.
going.
I feel like I've been here for ages.
You
I
could like
guess-
tag it with like all the different like things we talked about. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It went
But-
on.
Very good. Was there anything during the show that you wish we had talked about, or something you wish we'd brought up, or a story you wish you could have told?
Whoa.
I'm pretty happy.
No, I'm content.
I'm in the
as.
flow. I'm just chilling. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're just
We're just
no, like
chilling.
Stocker's like real chill.
Yeah,
like,
stuff
she
is
doesn't
like
really-
real chill.
she
Like,
doesn't really care about anything. She's just sort of like living life
Yeah.
on the edge. Just living life on the sledge.
sledge. Sledge.
Sledge.
Okay, well, I'll ask you this then. Both of you individually can answer this. What would your advice be to someone who is wanting to or is looking into starting a creative career in music?
Give up.
For you,
No, I take it back.
for you specifically, like obviously being a front man, I guess, or front person, and for you being a producer, what would you say?
Me go? Okay. Okay. I think you have to put a lot of hard work in. I think immerse yourself in the process. Not necessarily like do your research and stuff, but just do it heaps and be open to collaborating, because I've learned my biggest growth has like big steps of learning have been through collaborating with other people and learning other people's processes. I think producing is so much more than just knowing how to arrange a song or sound design and stuff. It's actually working with people, and I think that sometimes is overlooked, is that you actually have to be able to work with someone and communicate with them and understand energies and when the energy's off and when to stop an idea or when to... So I think just doing it with other people and putting yourself out there when you feel confident enough in your own abilities. Don't do it too early, because then you'll actually kind of maybe find yourself in situations where you don't really feel like you've hit that standard yet, and then you're working with other people and you kind of feel a bit weird. You're like, I don't know if I should be working with, like, I don't think you're going to be getting the best work out of this. Like, the song's not going to be served the best way it can.
Yeah.
And yeah, be open to all, keep your, what's Grimes say? Keep your neural plasticity up and listen to every kind of music that's coming out, even if you don't like it. Listen to everything. Be open-minded to everything that's happening. Understand why people are liking what's happening, and spend time experimenting as well as creating. Like, have a natural progression between like writing, just purely experimenting, finishing ideas. Like, really map out the tiers of production and where you can put time into all of them.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Very much a similar idea. I think the best bit of advice I ever received becoming an artist, like really early days, like 13, 14, was like, find someone who you like and do exactly what they did. So I would spend a lot of time like Wikipediaing like Lorde or like Marina and the Diamonds, you know what I mean? But take that a step further and apply that to everything an artist does, not just their comeuppance. Like, go get like an education, even if you're just educating yourself like from home, like learn as much as you can, and look at all these artists and take what you find most best about them and most interesting about them and make it sort of a fusion and become your own person, because you can't get anywhere being somebody else, but you can definitely get somewhere from having a lot of influences, and especially if your influences are the best, you know.
Yeah, that's something we talked about a lot to button that really nicely, is that imitation should breed iteration. But if you're constantly imitating, you're just going to be copying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you got to find that really fine balance where you're taking ideas, but you're not directly being a copy of that person.
Absolutely.
Where can people find you guys?
I'm stocker.mp3 now. Yay. You can find me on Instagram on stocker.mp3. You can find me on TikTok at BRIA_. And you can also find currently our music on Spotify still under BRIA.
Yeah.
True.
But will it be under Stocker?
It will be changed.
soon?
It should be changed soon. Just keep up to date on my
changed it? Yeah, not yet.
admin on the pod. But yeah, just go to the Instagram. I update everyone through there.
Perfect. That's STOCKER.
STOCKER. .mp3.
And you can find me just on Instagram, Tejavu Music. So it's Dejavu with a T. Yeah, you'll see everything that I'm doing
Perfect.
there.
And it'll all be linked, obviously.
Yeah, it's all linked.
Just so
Slim.
you can find it. Very, very last question. And you can answer this really quickly because we are super over.
Yes.
We'll see.
Right.
Edit this one down.
Is Rodeo going to be on Spotify soon?
No.
No.
Rodeo can't because the samples.
Oh, because samples.
Yeah,
Okay.
But-
we don't have. But if we win,
If we win, then
if we
Yeah.
get enough support and if we win, we can maybe have some leverage to get permission from the artist.
And
Perfect.
if we'll just leave it at that.
Leave
We'll
it
leave it
at
at
that.
that.
Let's
Okay.
hope everybody fingers crossed.
Yes, fingers
Manifest
crossed.
for Stocker. Slay.
Is that a voting thing or is that just a...
No,
Okay,
it's
it's just a
It's
regular
just a
thing.
general.
All right.
judged competition.
hit
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, everyone go vote, but that's
Well,
fine.
go stream. Go stream
Go
it on
stream.
Unearthed. That helps.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Leave a
We have a
review.
tradition on the show, so what's going to happen is I'm going to do the outro to camera. It's going to be really weird for you. It's going to be normal for them.
Yeah.
But then you can both, or one of you gets to press this button after we say bye. So how it works is I'll do the outro, and then we'll go bye, bye. And since there's both of you, do you want to do it?
Bye.
Do you want to say it together?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. And then hit the button.
And then hit the
This
button.
one. Yeah?
The pink one.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening to or watching this episode of The Froe Show. We hope you've enjoyed it. Go check out Stocker and James on Instagram and Spotify. Everything will be linked. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week. Also, rate us on Spotify. Bye.
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 Perfect. There we go.
How good.
Awesome. Good job, guys.
Thanks,
You
guys.
crushed that.
No, fun.
I'm sorry we went over.
No. No.
I love the sound.
Good.
No, it's so fun. I was really umming and ahhing, like, should I go over?